come true. Nothing is impossible. No, what are you waiting for? Do
On your mark, get set. We're riding on the
Clueless
internet, cyberspace, set free. Hello, virtual reality.
Interactive appetite, searching for a website, a window to the world, got to get online.
Take a spin, now you're in with the techno set. You're going surfing on the
Clueless
internet.
So that's how you get interconnected to the internet. Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Clueless Internet podcast, episode 20.1. We're back at this again. I'm your host, Alex. I'm joined once again by my wonderful co-host.
Hello. I'm Howard.
Howard. Did I not say your name?
No.
Sorry, I keep forgetting your name whenever I'm not in front of you. It's very easily
Who said that?
easily forgettable. Who are you?
Who? Why?
Yeah, we're back in lockdown. We're back in local lockdown. So we're back to recording point episodes, 0.1. Hopefully not of 0.9 again like last time.
We'll see.
Hopefully we're back
See how
at
long this
the
lasts.
regular schedule before we get to that point. And with this episode, we're back with another week of facts, fakes, and fuck it. No, actually, we're not. We're back with, frankly, nothing. Actually, no, we're not. I've got some notes. Don't worry.
Some
Howard.
things.
I will
some
guide
things
us along.
Have happened.
Things have happened. Although the document that I've written up was written up before the last few days, so a lot has happened between me writing this document and
It feels like
us
everything
recording
has happened,
it.
but
Yeah, it's sort of the world's more on fire than it was a few days ago. So there's
help!
that.
Get me off this train.
Just to give us sort of an idea of where we are from the last time we recorded a lockdown episode, we'll start off by talking about COVID-19, as we always do.
Oh, what a surprise!
What has it done this time? Well, I don't know what we were at when we were on 9. Was it 18.9? I think the last lockdown episode was.
Yeah.
I don't know where we were on that one, but currently now we're on 36 million plus COVID-19 cases.
It wasn't that many, I'll tell you that much.
What did I say? 30.
36 minutes. It wasn't that many back then. No, it was.
Oh no, I was about to say. I thought you meant now. I was going to say I've got false information. We're unfortunately over. We've passed the 1 million death mark now worldwide. But we have some room to be optimistic because we also have 27 million people recovered thus far from the coronavirus. So it's not technically not all doom and gloom, but still wear your masks, wash your faces, wash your hands.
You should wash your hands, you dirty pig.
Wash
your
your
face,
wash your elbows, wash your knees.
wash your elbows, and then cover them up with masks. Cover everything up with masks.
Cover up everything up with masks, your nipples
Condoms
with
on
masks.
your fingers. Don't use gloves, they're not good. No, just use condoms on your fingers, condom on your head, put a mask over it.
Femdom on your feet.
Roll up in a ball, cry in the corner. Fill
Set
up
yourself
the
on
condoms
fire
with your
to
tears.
blend in. But yeah, well, we're unfortunately back in lockdown. How are you finding it, Howard? You haven't really left lockdown, to be honest. Well, you have a little bit.
I've left a little bit. I go shopping. I've been to see the family.
You've actually been to work a few times since we recorded the last one.
I pop into work when I'm needed, but otherwise I've been working from home. From this very little room that I'm in now. In fact, I'm going to turn the radiator on. It's cold.
Because it's a cold little room.
It's a cold room. It was last time we were recording. It was probably quite warm in here actually, but
Yeah, but now it's got
winter
to
is coming quite quickly.
very quickly, and it's going to nip us in the bollocks at some point, much like coronavirus has. We finally, Howard, on the 24th of September, got the long anticipated COVID-19 application from the government.
You mean the one? You mean the one that you can't register your tests with?
Can you not?
Did you not hear about that?
No, that will add to the list of what I've already got written down.
Someone on Twitter basically tweeted like the either the NHS or the app developer or whatever, and they were like, I've got my test results. How do I? And I've got my code, but it won't accept my code. And they were like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't currently work with the official NHS tests." I was like, oh.
So it doesn't work with the thing it's meant to work with.
So
That's
you
great.
couldn't be tracked and traced if you'd had an official. I don't know if that's changed since.
I would fucking hope so.
I'm gonna actually check. Carry on. I'm gonna have a quick look.
So so far, as of today, I don't know as of today. It might have gone up as of today. I read this a little while ago. It has over 100 million, I wish, 1 million downloads so far. And the way that it works is it uses Bluetooth, a quote-unquote low-power solution of Bluetooth, to detect people around you with the app who have actually registered that they've got a confirmed case of COVID-19. And so, I mean, it's out now, but this app has had a bit of a roller coaster of a release over the past few months. This is actually version 2. This isn't the first version.
I don't think we could access the first version, could we?
No. Well, I think
it was a beta version that only the NHS staff members could use.
I think that was this version, but it was set to a beta because the other version didn't really work because they weren't using the Google/Apple API because they didn't want to use it. I think they wanted to be a bit more independent, and look where that got them. So it didn't really quite work out for them. So they had to fall back on the privacy-centric, decentralized, built on the Apple/Google contact tracing exposure notification API. Oh, that was a mouthful. So it's based on... So do you know... Have you read up how the app actually works? In conjunction with...
Tell me the techno-babble.
So, to put it in layman's terms, I'm not going to say you have to be 37 degrees out from somebody who has spoken to someone with coronavirus whose family has been to Armenia in the past 10 weeks to get the astronomical dilation of the stars. It's not that complicated. So essentially, you have to be within 2 meters of someone with a confirmed COVID case for 5 minutes, which that nets you 300 risk points essentially. So being within 2 meters of someone who has a confirmed case, between 2 and 4 meters with the same time nets you 150. So it's halved. Yeah. In order for the app to cross the notification threshold, do you want to have a guess how many points it has to reach? So 5 minutes within 2 meters is 300 points. You want to have a little guess at how many points you've got to have?
300 points. 1,500?
No, 900. So you've got to be within 2 meters of someone with a confirmed case for 15 minutes.
Oh.
To get a notification.
That's 15 minutes too many.
That is a long time.
If I have to say, maybe I'll be kind. That's 14 minutes too many.
I'm going to be even less kind. That's 14 minutes and 59 seconds longer than it should be.
Then I would like to know.
So what is this? Hi. Oh, so this is the
that's
guy
just
tweet in the NHS. Hi.
This is the NHS COVID app.
Do you want to read it?
It's basically if your test took place in a Public Health England lab or NHS hospital, or as part of the national surveillance testing conducted by the Office for National Statistics, test results cannot currently be linked with the app, whether they are positive or negative. Thanks.
Jeez. Go die.
That was on the 25th of September. I can't find a follow-up article. They said the article I'm reading currently is that they're working very fast to fix it.
I would hope so. I would hope so.
They haven't attached a follow-up. And I can't find a follow-up. So maybe that's changed?
Or they just hoped it went away? Or just maybe no one has corona. Maybe just no one has it.
If we
Miraculously.
If we just close our eyes and nobody got it.
It'll go away. So to add insult to injury with that 15 minutes of exposure, I suppose it's more so if you're on a bus with someone, a bus or a train or something, you're going to be, I mean, even 15 minutes, That's still quite a long time. I know train journeys and bus journeys that are less than 15 minutes. But to add insult to injury, if you have an iPhone 6 or older, or you run an Android phone 5.1 Lollipop or older, which is nearly 15% of Android devices from April 2020, that is according to the article that I've got it from, the Register.
Yeah.
It doesn't work because apparently Bluetooth isn't compatible with your device. Apparently, I don't know if it was. I can't remember if people were saying because the iPhone 6 doesn't have Bluetooth or it doesn't have the same.
I've still got my 6. I've got a 6S. It's a slightly later model, but the phones before that had Bluetooth. So they definitely had Bluetooth. It's probably just the compatibility of the version of Bluetooth, because Bluetooth has increased to, I think, are we on 3.0 now, or are we on higher?
I'm pretty sure we're on Bluetooth 5.
Okay, so yeah, I think it might be that that version of Bluetooth, either 2 or 3, is probably too old to be compatible.
It probably is. I think it's probably also the fact that it's not the low power version that they keep saying.
Yeah. Luckily, I don't use that phone for anything other than an MP3 player now.
Well, there you go. See, Howard, you saved your own life by upgrading your phone. So, essentially, if you have a phone older than that, if iPhone or Apple weren't already fucking you by making your phone slower or die really quickly, you now, to survive, have to buy a new phone. So this is a fantastic marketing ploy.
Very quickly, it looks like a day or two after that initial tweet, it has been fixed, so you can now upload a positive. If you've had a positive COVID result, you can upload it to the app. So that's fixed at least.
I'm glad that they have to have the code to officially do it, and it's not like you just go, "Yeah, I've got it."
It'd be nice to account for all the negatives as well, but it doesn't matter as long as they're accounting for the positives. That's the thing that really matters.
I suppose you don't need to put in a negative, though. I suppose
it's just good to have that data.
True.
Which they're probably tracking with other means. Obviously, otherwise we wouldn't know about all these people who've recovered. But it'd be nice because I think it's a way for the public to be able to understand how many cases are recovering, how many are currently going, and stuff like that. But obviously, if we can't all immediately upload our negative results, then you won't see an immediate result. It's going to be the results for that information are going to be delayed because it's been collected in a server farm probably.
It would be kind of nice just to see how much your area is testing as well, because you can just go, your area is very high tested for negative. Like
your area is a cesspit. Run.
I love it here. Thanks. Imagine you just buy a house in a really bad area. Oh.
Well, to be fair, we both fucking are in a pretty bad area at the moment.
Well, that's why we're in local lockdown, boy.
Yeah, because our area couldn't stay the fuck indoors.
And put a piece of fucking cloth on.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
I still see people walking into the little shops with no mask on. I'm like,
oh, do I have a little story for you later? After the podcast.
How many people did you kill, Alex?
I said after the podcast. So when asked about this on BBC Breakfast, I've put down what I've written here is when asked about it on BBC Breakfast, he evaded the question and instead opted to say, no, it's Hancock. What's his first name? I'm pretty sure it was Hancock.
I can't remember.
Oh, what is his name? What is his name? Matt Hancock, that's it. Health Secretary. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock. Mahancock. I like that name. Mahancock said, so they asked him about all these phones not being able to download it because of their older hardware. Yeah. And instead he opted to say, I'm delighted to hear so many people are trying to download it. It's excellent. Only a small proportion of devices.
And quote, oopsie poopsie.
I hate the public. He later said, I don't know if it was in the same interview, but he later said only a small proportion of devices don't have the latest iOS software that was released in April. The reason for this is it needs an accurate version of Bluetooth. Of course, there are technical requirements in the same way that if you don't have a phone, you can't download it. The best thing that they can do if they want to get the app is to upgrade. So go and buy a brand new phone, ladies and gentlemen. If you actually, then again, you don't need to buy I suppose you don't need to buy a brand new phone. If you'd be cheaper getting an Android phone because you can sort of jimmy your way past an update, I suppose, on an Android.
I mean, if you're
Apple,
if you're handy enough, you can root an iPhone.
like my Hancock.
Like your Hancock.
My Hancock's really handy. But that's all I've got for COVID. Do you have anything to add to COVID chat?
Yeah, fuck
chat?
you, COVID.
Yeah, fuck you, COVID.
Go fuck yourself.
God, I hope you die.
I
Very
suppose
soon.
we are skipping over the biggest news of Trump over the weekend. That miraculous fucking recovery.
That 2-day turnaround.
Yeah.
And then
Have
he
you
started
seen-
like struggling to breathe.
Well, there was that video of him like struggling to breathe, and then there was video of him talking today released, and I looked at it like he's not even there. He's like fucking half like blinking into space. He's like
China. And it's just, Trump, I asked you what you
And
wanted
it's
for
like,
breakfast.
everyone was saying like he's faking it, he's faking it. It's like, I don't think he's faking it. I think he is doing something extremely stupid though.
Like, 2 days. I saw this video, and it was of him, I think, in his motorcade going past the people outside, because there were people camping outside of the hospital just to see him.
Secret Service is sick of him apparently. The Secret Service made him.
Haha, badum.
He made the Secret Service take him outside to greet his fans and stuff, and they're like, "We don't want to. We're all dropping like flies around you, you prick."
You're gross. Get away.
Well,
You're gross and infected.
Apparently, like loads of Secret Service people are falling ill with it. It's all over the White House, apparently.
It doesn't surprise me when I see some of the pictures of people just like acting as if nothing's really happening, and there's just all these congressional not congressional meetings, just like people chatting in a hallway and stuff, and it looks like it did beforehand. It's like, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But he had a miraculous fucking turnaround. People like, I like all the conspiracies and stuff that he's just trying to play it off, and
some amazing conspiracies, some amazing memes came out of it.
Oh god, yeah.
I might leave it a little bit longer and delve into it and see if anything's worth covering further for another
There
episode.
probably is. I was about to say, I haven't really looked into it that much because I have been kind of out of the loop of the news lately. I just kind of see the headline and go, haha.
Well, I want to, waiting
Trump
for the smoke
meme.
to clear. Waiting for the smoke to clear, because apparently the kind of COVID that comes on very quick and hits very hard is apparently one of the worst ones, and it looks like if Trump has got it, that's what he's got. So God knows what might happen in the next week or two, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Uh-oh. I mean, I don't agree with him politically, but, I don't hope that he dies. I don't wish death upon someone with this.
No, it's not the kind of people we are.
I want to see...
Generally a pacifist, generally.
Yeah, generally. I mean, yeah, generally. Watch your step, Donald. I've got powers. I've got powers that you don't know of.
If he tried to touch my pussy, I'd kick his ass.
Yeah. Yeah, anyone tries to touch my pussy, I'm gonna Hancock you into next week. Last thing I'll speak about presidential stuff is I went online today, and just my feed on everything was just bombarded with "fly on Pence's head."
Oh, did you
during
see
the vice president debate?
Did you see the cringy as fuck tweet that Biden put out as well with the fucking fly swatter?
No.
All the like, as much as I hate Donald Trump, all the Democrat shit is so fucking cringe. All the Kamala Harris stuff, like, because from what I've seen of Kamala Harris is I can't really trust what all these fucking milquetoast white people think of the Biden-Harris association. So I did what I follow a few. I think it's a name they've coined themselves. So I hope they don't mind me using it. But Black Twitter essentially taught me that, exactly the kind of person Kamala Harris is, and exactly
Not very nice, or
and exactly the kind of person Biden is. They're both, when it comes to progressive policy for minorities and stuff, they're just awful. Kamala Harris was, I can't remember what she was, but she's instigated a lot of lot of policy that has affected young black people. Like when it comes to things like drug charges and stuff, like stupid things like that. She's
didn't she have the highest incarceration rate while she was in office?
Yeah, she's not a progressive by any means, and the fact that the Democratic Party are trying to pull that off. Well, you've got to remember that Kamala Harris got voted out of that running immediately. Like, she was worse than any of the candidates. She was gone straight away, and for them to pull her back in and be like, "Oh yeah, look, we've got one of the strongest no, you got the worst candidate, and now you're making her run for VP."
All I'm thinking is just a Snoop Dogg meme going, "Who?"
Yeah, you picked the only reason Biden, like up until the ticket was Biden, when Bernie essentially handed in the towel. Up until that point, nobody liked Biden. There were a few people, there were a few nut jobs out there, but as soon as Bernie and the rest of them fell, and it was just Biden, then immediately all the fucking blue no matter what people came out, and it's like, you can vote for Biden and you can put him in office. You don't have to pretend to like the cunt. He's an asshole. He's a molester. You don't have to like him. You don't have to pretend. Stop pretending. Just get him in office and then fucking impeach him as well, and get a better Democrat in place.
Put me there. Yeah, I'll do it.
Do your blue no matter who. Do it fine. Get rid of Trump. But don't keep the cunt in office. He's an asshole. So is she, apparently.
Only time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, you don't have to do all this cringy fucking, oh, look at how wonderful Biden. They're not. They're awful, awful people. But they're better than Trump. You don't, like, you can still vote for them and keep your dignity.
What? Well, moving swiftly along from that one before we get down the political rabbit hole, I wanted to ask you about something that happened that was huge in the gaming world. Now, you probably already know what I'm going to talk about. Hugh in the gaming world, the shop. Microsoft acquiring Zenimax Media. Now, I'm pretty sure this has been talked about up and down the internet by now.
Endlessly, yes.
Pretty late to the party, if I'm being honest. Pardon me. But now in a $7.5 billion deal. Can you think about how many majillions that is, Howard? Probably not.
Well,
with that seven,
think about how many were.
You've lost me already.
Let me just check one thing.
I'll set a marker there.
Okay, for context, in 2009, Disney bought Marvel. Yeah, Disney.
2009.
It bought Marvel for $4 billion.
Shit! Oh my god! And imagine how much money they've made off of that already.
Yeah, Disney, one of the biggest companies in the world.
One of the biggest cunts.
One of the biggest cunts in the world bought fucking one of the other biggest cunts in the world.
Hello, you cunt.
For $4 billion. And what was this? 7.5 billion.
7.5.
That's how much Microsoft fucking values Zenimax.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, you say Zenimax, and then it's just below that in subheading, just go The Elder Scrolls and Fallout. The rest, rest.
No. You've got Doom as well. You've got
library.
Elder Scrolls, Fallout, and Doom, and to an extent, Quake.
You've got Dishonored, Wolfenstein, Quake.
I would say. Actually, no. Yeah, I would say your weaker selection of that lot is Rage, Dishonored, Wolfenstein, and Quake. Doom, Fallout, and Elder Scrolls are still relevant to this day, and they're some of the oldest IPs out of this list. Quake probably been the closest. No, and Wolfenstein and Quake are from the times of Doom, early 90s. I think Dishonored and Rage are the only two new IPs on there. All the rest of them are from like the early days of the 90s. Fallout had its early run in the 90s. Elder Scrolls had its early run in the 90s. So these are really long-standing and relevant. At least three of them are still really relevant IPs.
Oh yeah, and like very hyped now for the next one. Especially, I would say more so now the Fallout one after the success of the Outer Worlds.
Yeah.
with the potential collaboration between Obsidian and Bethesda on
Please.
a Fallout New Vegas. I don't think
Please
they'll
do
do
a
another
Fallout.
Fallout New Vegas. I think
I
they'll
would
do
take a sequel.
new.
I would actually take a sequel. I
IP.
really like the atmosphere of New Vegas compared to all the other new Fallouts. New Vegas had a completely different atmosphere. It felt like a proper wasteland.
Oh, I don't doubt that they'll do another New Vegas. I just don't think it'll be New Vegas 2. I think what they'll probably do is they'll probably do like Fallout Nevada or Fallout Las Vegas or something like
bigger
that.
scope. Yeah.
Yeah. But so
they might take it to a bigger scope and do what they've done with like Elder Scrolls Online, where they've kind of merged the lands together. So you might have like Fallout Nevada, and if you want, you can go to New Vegas, kind of thing.
yes,
Give me that.
yes. Here, take my 7.4 billion that I totally have. It's just written down on a piece of paper. Go ahead, trust me.
If they brought out a Fallout that encompassed a bigger area, maybe like we
Red
just
Dead 2.
mentioned, and maybe introduced. They already introduced a travel system, didn't they, with the vertibirds?
Yes.
I wouldn't mind a different travel. I wouldn't mind them eventually giving up on the no vehicles thing and maybe having some like Mad Max vehicles in Fallout. I'd totally take that.
Have a fucking horse, man.
Someone's
Someone's got to have saved one.
Or a horse, something, anything. Well, yeah, you've already got the horse physics already all fucking coded out in the engine for the Elder Scrolls. You could whack one in.
Exactly. God, that glitchy piece of shit. Just whack it in.
Give it to me.
No, so this is kind of misleading because it makes it sound like Microsoft has acquired Zenimax now. But I think apparently they've just said, look, we're going to buy you next year.
Yeah.
I think they've basically got all the
hoping-
paperwork done, but the money needs to transfer next year, and the actual ownership and everything like that has to happen next year.
They probably don't want to during the middle of fucking lockdown as well, because America's where most of these most of the studios are based for this company. They probably don't want to disrupt the structure
current
of
development
everything.
and stuff.
Yeah, they're probably like, we'll give you a year to essentially get everything ready for a transition. Essentially,
Well, they've got a few games coming out.
Not that much is going to change, but obviously Microsoft will want to come in and stick their nose where the money is.
I think there's also the fact that they've got that what is that? Is it Deathloop, and they've got Tokyo Wire, something.
Which are both timed exclusives for PlayStation.
Yes. So I think they'll probably just let that run out, and then they'll just be like, yeah, they're all ours now. Now,
well, this is where I've said I slightly disagree. This is based on someone else's opinion, but an opinion I agree with. That the way Microsoft has worded a lot of stuff, and the way they've said that in the future they want people to be able to play anywhere they want to, on any kind of system they want to, along with like Amazon doing this recent gaming thing they've released, which looks awful.
Hello, Google Stadia 2.0.
It sounds like, and this is the opinion of Colin Moriarty from Sacred Symbols, it looks as though Microsoft are looking to become one of the biggest publishers of gaming software. Hardware still being on their purview, but not their main focus, I think.
Yeah.
I think they want to focus on the software, have this Game Pass thing with all of these games essentially on it, so that they can offer those games to the other consoles like PlayStation, but they'll be selling them at full price. They won't be on a game service.
Whereas a Game Pass, all you'll have to pay is £7 a month.
Or you get a Game Pass, pay your subscription, and you can play the games over on our system for cheaper, essentially, for a more reasonable price. I think they're going to be. I think if they do that, like if that's not already their plan, they should absolutely fucking jump on it, because it is probably the way to make the most money. Because there are some people on PlayStation who are like, no, I'm never going to Xbox, so they will buy the disc. So you're still going to make the money anyway.
Oh god, Microsoft is just going to be rolling in it.
Yeah. I'm already considering with this generation, but now that I can buy a cheaper version of both the consoles, buying the cheaper version of the Xbox so I can play Xbox exclusive stuff. Whereas it's probably the first time in any generation I've been able to think about that, because the price is so reasonable.
£250, isn't it? I think for the smaller
only reason I'm not doing it the other way around is because the smaller PS5 costs more. So I want the. If I'm going to buy the expensive unit, I might as well buy the more expensive unit, and then if I want the cheaper unit, I might as well buy the cheaper unit.
Then again, with the PlayStation, it's not even a cheaper. Well, it is a cheaper unit, but it's the same
without
unit.
A Blu-ray drive. So essentially, if you do buy that's the difference with the PlayStation 5 discless. It is the same console, just without a Blu-ray drive. Whereas the Xbox cheaper version has actually got lower tier technology in it.
Yeah.
Your games won't look as good. They won't render it. Like, you won't have that full 4K 60 FPS that they've been talking about with the full model.
I think you can still get 120 FPS if I'm right in some games. I don't know 4 games.
You just can't. You just won't be able to get your 4K resolution. I think you can get 4K at 30 FPS. I think.
I'm not too sure.
With the smaller unit, I think you can do that. I'll have to look that up, but I think you can.
Which isn't bad at all for $250.
Yeah,
to play next gen games.
Still ridiculous, and plus, this is where I think why Colin's probably right with the whole software thing is they've created a cheap unit they know is going to sell well, even if their main unit doesn't sell well, because they've got this Game Pass thing. People are going to buy that just for Game Pass. That cheaper unit. If they're a PlayStation gamer, they're going to buy that just for Game Pass. If they're a PC player, they won't, obviously, because they've got a PC. If they're a Switch player
as well.
Yeah, if they're a Switch player, they might be like, well, I could get the cheaper Xbox. It might not play the games at the highest fucking resolutions, but neither does my Switch. So
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
There was talk about Microsoft acquiring Nintendo as well.
I don't see that ever happening.
Which could be possible, but I can't see it.
Nintendo are mostly a hardware company. When it comes to software, for the longest time, they did create most of their own software in-house or with like close third parties. They've opened that up more now with the Switch. But I think Nintendo are too proud for that. I don't think they'll ever foreseeably sell.
No.
Even if it means that they downsize and become more of a software developer like Sega did, they'll probably do that if anything. But I think with this generation, with the Switch and the upgraded Switch, I think they're going to be fine. I think
are they coming with an upgraded Switch?
Well, they came out with the Lite version, which wouldn't attach to an external unit. It was purely handheld, and now it sounds like they're going to bring out a higher tier version of the Switch.
Ah, right, cool.
It sounds like they've done really well. Like when you look at the numbers, they've kept up with like Xbox and PlayStation this generation. They kept up at the beginning with the Wii, then dropped off with the Wii U heavily. Like it was really bad for them for a while. But I think the Switch has completely turned it around for them. Like the Switch has sold like hotcakes to the point where people still now can't go out and just buy one sometimes.
Well, it filled that gap, didn't it? I mean, with the Wii. The original Wii.
Which is exactly how the Wii went. It was like you couldn't buy a Wii for like 2 years. Not like just walk into a shop and expect them to have them. You'd walk into a shop and they'd be like, oh, you're going to have to wait till next week.
Well, it's sort of... Nintendo has always sort of filled that gap because with Wii, it was the better alternative to the Xbox Kinect. It was a lot more responsive sort of body movements. Then with the Wii U, it was sort of like, why am I buying a worse version of these consoles? And now with the Switch, it's filled in the gap of, well, my Nintendo DS is pretty old and I really kind of want to play some next-gen looking games on the go. There you go. I can't do that with Xbox and PlayStation currently.
Well, I think the Wii and vicariously, not the predecessor, the other one, the later one, the Switch with the Switch
after one.
Yeah, with that being a development of the Wii, I think the Wii was probably the best out of all the kinetic stuff from that generation, because PlayStation tried to do it with Move and it was okay. They kind of use it for their VR now. Xbox were obviously doing it with they were trying to do it without controllers and stuff, which doesn't really work, especially when you see how nice like those Oculus Grip ones are and stuff. I think Nintendo kind of led the way for what is now the main technology that we use for VR, like VR control and stuff.
Yeah.
And they did it the best. And I think that's probably why the Nintendo works so well. It's quite intuitive for a lot of people. A lot of people understand this kind of the way you use these controllers now. Like with the Nintendo the Wii was kind of like the introduction to that. It blew up, and now the Switch has come out, and it's just an improvement on that concept essentially.
Well, there's never really a massive learning curve when it comes to the Nintendo products, I find. Whereas, not necessarily with the PlayStation, Xbox, but sometimes you've sort of got to figure the system out a little bit before you can really get into it. Whereas with the Wii, it was sort of very intuitive with what you had to do.
Yeah.
It's pretty much just like, pick up a controller, use it as if it's an extension of your hand.
Oh yeah, I would use the Wii controllers for hours without having to like realign them or anything. And I got the PlayStation Move when it first came out on the PS3. And as good as it was, like the PlayStation Move probably was actually a little bit more responsive than the Wii. Which is weird because it was all done through camera tracking and stuff.
Instead of a sensor bar.
Yeah, it was strange. It was using like a little 640p 480p camera. And the resolution was awful. The image was grainy and terrible, but it tracked this thing like the dog's bollocks. I don't know how it worked. It was ridiculous. But that thing lost its fucking connectivity so often, or it would lose its place on the screen, and you'd have to reset the controller. You'd have to do it every few minutes in the pause menu. You'd have to pause and reset the fucking thing.
Calibration.
So I can't even imagine how bad it is using those on the PlayStation. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go whole hog on the PSVR. Like, as much as I would like a PSVR, every time I think about using those Move controllers, I'm like, did it get
You just
better?
shudder a little bit inside.
Yeah, I haven't used a PS4 camera though, and the PS4 camera is a much higher resolution. It's probably much better now.
And especially with the PS5 camera coming out soon.
Yeah, I'm probably just remembering the bad old early days. Even though the technology in the controller hasn't changed, that was the bit that worked really well. The gyroscope in it and stuff was really good. It was the fact that it would constantly lose where the ball was. So you'd be playing like Time Crisis, shooting a bunch of shit, and then your cursor would just fly off the screen.
Helpful. Very helpful. Talk about PlayStation. We did recently get a teardown of the new PS5. And
Years.
a few of just off the top of my head, I haven't written any notes for this, but just off the top of my head, a few things that stood out to me was the liquid metal cooling that they've got, the massive heatsink that they've got in there.
They've learnt a thing or two since the days of the PS3.
Oh yeah,
and having to bake the fucking boards back together.
Yeah. They've got a place for an M.2 drive, which I wasn't expecting.
Yes, they do have to be. They do have to be confirmed compatible by Sony.
Right. But Sony make their own, I think.
They make their own, but it also looks like there's going to be a fairly good list of compatibility. I think it's more obscure brands you're not going to be able to whack in there. Like if you're going with like a Samsung or a fucking Toshiba
or I make my own,
or something like that, you're probably going to be fine.
Instead of the Xboxes, I'm pretty sure it's pretty pricey at nearly $200. I think it's probably just over $200 for that insertable, expandable storage.
Oh. I thought the expandable storage slot would be in there ready for you to put something in.
Oh yeah, it is there. Sorry, the slot is there, but like the memory that you put in the slot is quite expensive, if I remember.
So is this like the 360 where you have to buy the 360 hard drive?
Oh no, sorry. There is an SSD already in there. This is the expandable one. Sorry. If you want to add more memory.
That's what I mean. With the 360, you had to buy their specific hardware. Do you have to do that again with Xbox?
I'm pretty sure you do, because it doesn't look like anything that I've seen.
That's one of the few things PlayStation's always done and I've always appreciated, since the 3 anyway. The expansion's basically like, just buy a good brand and you'll be fine. Just whack it in there, do whatever. You'll be fine.
I will see if I can find it. Because I'm pretty sure... here it is. It's sort of like just a little slot, basically.
It's the tiniest little slot, yeah.
Yeah.
But apparently it's got a really good.
It's very small. It sort of looks like a bit of an SS. Not
aesthetically, it looks
SD
really
card.
nice.
It looks very nice, doesn't it? It looks very sleek.
And it is made by Seagate. They're a good company. I think they're owned by Western Digital now, or the other way around.
But I think it's just to make sure that you've got the same speed, regardless. Of what card you put in there, just so that every game works the same.
Yeah, since the introduction of SSD, there's a lot of things. It's a bit like in the old days when frames per second would be tied to like the CPU, and then CPU's changed, and all of a sudden games will run at 2,000 miles an hour. I think the kind of hard drive and the way data is compressed and processed is more important nowadays than the CPU. It's got to that point where now, if you haven't got the right hard drive, we're going to struggle to give you the product that we promise you essentially on the box. If you put any old random piece of shit in here, it's gonna struggle to, and they don't like that. That's one of the things console makers don't like. It's like, no, you need, if we're not selling you the performance that we put on the box, then it's false advertising essentially.
We want to give you the experience that we've created for you instead of having to wait for a fucking dragon to load when it's already 3 minutes into the cutscene.
And I do like that Sony's offering you. It's not as good as it used to be, because I think with like the PS3 and the PS4, you could whack any old fucker in there. With the PS5, it is going to be a specific list of ones you can go with, but at least there's the choice there.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be a cost-effective version in there.
Yeah.
What they'll probably do is, Sony. It seems like Sony have been really smart. It seems like what they would do is, if you do have an SSD that isn't as powerful as the one that they've got in there, they'll probably just have the things that it needs to load right away
They'll
on their
prioritize it
SSD,
on the board. Yeah.
and then have like the stuff that can load sort of in the background on the other SSD. I did see an alleged.
Well, you'll want things like textures and geometry on those primary drives so that they load the fastest. Then things like music and stuff you can have slower, because you can fade music in and do stuff like that. So you want uncompressed like sound and video files and stuff. You can stick those on the other drive.
Oh yeah, and like Jerry, who's 3 miles that way, who just so happens to load because the game's overpowered. I did see an alleged leaked image of the storage, and what we thought before seeing is it has an 825 gigabyte SSD.
One of the drawbacks of the PS5.
Was that they may have another little hard drive that has all the OS on it. So then it's essentially like you've just split it in half, but you get all that 825. Yeah. Unfortunately, from this leak at least, it looks like you'll only have 600 odd gig available, because the OS and everything else is taking up the rest of the space.
It looks like you're going to need to use that expandable slot, so you are going to have to spend the money on an expandable drive. But it also looks like they're giving you options. It looks like an external drive isn't going to be such a bad idea. Did you see the speeds of the USB and the USB-C drives and stuff?
Yes, like 10 gigabytes a second or something, isn't it?
It looks like you're going to be able to attach a pretty nifty SSD to it. Have you seen those, like the Western Digital black ones?
Oh yeah, the very sleek looking ones.
Yeah, something like that would probably serve you quite well as an external SSD. So it looks like they're giving you a few options at least.
I think the last thing that was really shown off on that teardown, well, one of the things that I really did like was that you could take the sides off. So obviously, here we go, the customized hardware. People are like frothing at the mouth after seeing that one.
I like how easy it came off. It looked like, at first, the way he bent it a little bit, it looked like it was going to break, but it was literally like, no, he was just lifting up to slide it a bit, so it just kind of went boom, boom.
I wonder if he did break it once or twice.
But even if you break them, it looks like this is going to be a fairly easy thing to replace, because it looks like the whole point is to be able to sell external cases, essentially.
Yeah, instead of selling a whole new console, you can just go, here's some like side panels for 30 quid or something.
Here's the Last of Us 3 side panels.
Oh god, here's Ellie's head half engulfed or something by a clicker. But it looked quite good the way the cooling works. I'm waiting for a previous recommended channel's video on that, Innocence. I'm waiting for his video on the breakdown of the console, because he has very good insight when it comes to this sort of stuff.
From what I saw, the heatsink bin at the bottom on the board, and essentially it looks like they're fairly well covered. You've got the heatsink at the bottom, you've got the heat-resistant gel for the CPU. You've got not the gel, it's the metallic.
Oh, the liquid metal.
Liquid metal coolant for that. And then you've got the vents at the top. And even though it is a bit of a weird-looking tall machine, I think it does look like it's designed to push all that air upwards away from the main CPU and the board.
Yeah, well, the back's the exhaust, isn't it? So you'll have air coming in from the front and top, and then out the back is the exhaust.
I think this machine's going to be one of those ones you're going to have to clean fairly often, but after watching the teardown, I feel more confident pulling that apart than any of the previous PlayStations to clean
I
that.
agree.
I'm like, I could clean that in half an hour quite happily. In fact, it looks like it would be enjoyable.
Thank you, Sony. You've made my Sunday afternoons just that more pleasurable.
Yeah, because taking the PS4 apart for it can't.
Because, I mean, going back in time, it would just you'd be scared to wreck it, especially, as I say, going back in time, you'd be younger, so if you broke that console, it was like, well, that's it.
I would say they haven't done a console so easy to clean since the PS2. The original model PS2 was so easy to take apart and clean. The screws were just underneath the rubber bumpers. You'd pull those off, undo the screws. They were just regular screws. They weren't weird star shapes or anything. Regular screws, take that bottom off, and once you take that bottom off, you're directly in the machine. Most of the ventilation's attached on that bottom piece, so you just clean all that out. Use some compressed air or a Hoover, get that out, and put it back together. PlayStation 2 was
Bob's
super
your
easy
call.
to clean. And then the PlayStation 3 came out, and they used the star fucking screws. They put several plates in the way of everything, so it was just impossible to fucking
They put
clean.
bodyguards around the sides.
Yeah, the initial PlayStation 3 anyway, that was just impossible to clean, which is probably why so many of them failed, including my original PlayStation 3. The smaller unit that I got later on was more like the PS2 in design and ease of opening, and then the PS4 probably about the same. Not the worst, but still not the best.
Well, Howard, I think that'll do it for the gaming section of this episode. Talking about yesteryears, I've got something about time travel that you may interest you. How
did you know?
Because I've travelled to the future where you told me, and I killed you. So look forward to that one. As we talked about in episode 20, part 2, we spoke at length about time travel. Now, may I remind you, Howard, we don't have all the time in the world now, so we will have to blast through this one. I just made a pun and didn't even know it.
We have all the time.
So,
sorry, go on.
Thank you, Louis. Apparently, some Australian scientists. Now, while I was putting this in the document, I was reading it and I was kind of like, what? So I want to see if you can sort of make anything out of this. I mean, you have the link to the article. For everyone else, we'll have the link to the article in the description, or you can check it out at cluelessinter.net if you want to check out any of the articles or anything that we've spoken about today. I'm pretty sure we haven't sent many links today, so it'll be a little bit sparse. But 2 Australian scientists think they've proved that time travel is possible. Now, this comes from Queensland University in Australia.
Aussie, mate.
So we have Jermaine Tober, a 4th-year undergraduate and a physicist, Dr. Fabio Costa. And this involves the grandfather paradox. Do you know about the grandfather paradox? I assume you do.
Yeah, Futurama's covered it. A bunch of other people have covered it, yeah.
So if you don't know what the grandfather paradox is, this essentially includes you going back to your grandfather before your parents were born and essentially killing him and wiping out your existence, essentially. It essentially makes it theoretically impossible for you to travel back because you never existed, because your grandfather was killed. Yeah, because your grandfather was killed before your parents were born. So
what happens to your grandfather? Once that paradox happens, does your grandfather suddenly reappear?
I'm gonna carry on with what they say because they have got. Well, I'll get to it. So these 2 think they've figured out a solution essentially. So this is Jermaine speaking.
They've figured out how to go back and kill yourself.
So they figured out how to go back and kill your grandfather if you really don't like
Nice one, lads.
the workaround. I really hate the bugger. So this is Jermaine saying this. Now, I may get tongue-tied here. So classical dynamics says that if you know the state of a system at a particular time, this can tell us the entire history of the system. This has a wide range of applications, from allowing us to send rockets to other planets and modeling how fluids flow. For example, if I know the current position and velocity of an object falling under the force of gravity, I can calculate where it will be at any time. However, Einstein's theory of general relativity predicts the existence of time loops or time travel, where an event can be both in the past and future of itself, theoretically turning the study of dynamics on its head. As a physicist, we want to understand... carry on.
So, an outcome basically pre-existing the cause.
So it's essentially all just happening at the same time.
Okay.
Time
compresses, maybe? I don't...
Well, it's like the outcome has already happened before you do this, so I suppose they can predict it or something. That's what I'm saying. Well, when I was like writing this down, I was like, a lot of this kind of doesn't prove this when I was reading it back. So I wanted to see if you could make anything out about this. It might have just been that this was a bad article from the BBC, but or was it from the BBC or was it from... I think it was from the BBC. I think I included a Daily Star one as well, just in case anybody wanted to do a double read on it. He says, as physicists, we want to understand the universe's most basic underlying laws, and for years I've puzzled on how the science of dynamics can square with Einstein's predictions. I wondered, is time travel mathematically possible? So they think they found a way by combining the two theories.
I was going to say, I thought we already assumed that time travel was mathematically possible. It's just that we don't know how to
achieve it.
Form a catalyst, essentially.
I don't know if we could go the speed of light, our bodies.
To have the energy to do it. Well, yeah, the idea of going at the speed of light, the mathematics kind of exists for that as well, which is where, obviously, matter and energy are transferable, and energy can travel at the speed of light. Therefore, you're made up of energy. You just need to figure out how to convert yourself into energy first. So essentially, a bit like time traveling, you might have to essentially break up your body and reform it somewhere else in the universe at a different time.
I do that every day.
Kind of thing, which is technically what you're doing all the time, is you're shedding bits of yourself and traveling forward through time.
It's like sort of breadcrumbs when you're in a maze.
Well, you're leaving along breadcrumbs for you to travel back to if you ever need to. Because one of the things about time travel is the idea that you can't travel back to a point before the atoms that create the time machine kind of were in the formation of a time machine. It kind of argues against that stupid idea that you couldn't travel back past the point of a time machine being invented.
So this is what Fabio says. Fabio says, the maths checks out and the results are the stuff of science fiction. Say you travelled in time in an attempt to stop COVID-19's patient zero from being exposed to the virus. However, if you stop that individual from becoming infected, now this is a bit where he lost me, that would eliminate the motivation for you to go back and stop the pandemic in the first place.
I get what he's getting at here. It's the same thing as the grandfather paradox. So if you were to get rid of your grandfather and you disappear, how does your grandfather die if you never came back to kill him, essentially?
Yeah.
I'll probably
explain that pretty poorly.
This is the same thing. So if you cured COVID and COVID didn't exist anymore, why would you ever travel back in the past to stop COVID?
Yes.
Essentially.
So he says, that would eliminate the motivation for you to go back and stop the pandemic in the first place. This is a paradox, an inconsistency that often leads people to think that time travel cannot occur in our universe. Some physicists say it is possible, but logically it's hard to accept because that would affect our freedom to make any arbitrary action. It would mean you can time travel, but you cannot do anything that would cause a paradox to occur. So basically, no matter, I think what he's saying here is basically
he's saying this as if time is deterministic. So time and space are deterministic. So the probability of the actions that you'll take manifesting into a reality are set. So no matter what you do in the past to change it, the end point will just change.
Yeah, So that's what he says here. He said this would mean that no matter what your actions, the pandemic would occur, giving your younger self the motivation to go back and stop it. Try as you might to create a paradox, the events will always adjust themselves to avoid any inconsistency.
But this is also ignoring multiverse theory. He's talking about just one timeline. When you introduce the idea of multiple timelines, then you could go back in time, stop COVID, return to your timeline, but everything would still be as normal.
Nothing changed.
All you've done is changed another timeline. You've gone and saved another verse, essentially, another timeline.
You're like, fuck.
You've done exactly what we said in that episode when we were talking about Trunks, when he travels back in time. Essentially, he didn't know, but he found out eventually that his journey to the past to stop the androids didn't stop the androids in his universe. All he did was kind of go back in time as a favor to their timeline to stop it for them.
Oh, yeah. He just went, oh, shit. And it has to go to, like, the little bitch Trunks that's in their universe and say, look, you've do me a fucking big favor. You've got to come and save my past.
Yeah, come save my ass.
Basically. So yeah, that's their theory on how paradoxes are avoided. So he says the range of mathematical processes we discovered show that time travel with free will is logically possible in our universe without any paradox. And you can read the full article and full paper in the description.
Yeah. Well, if that's the case,
because that's way too smart for me.
Well, if that's the case, they're kind of talking about they have to be included in multiverse theory for that to happen then, because essentially once it's done, it is done, but you've created a divergent path in the timeline as far as I can muster from that.
So it would just
and the timeline regardless. The timeline where it happened still exists because it's still in the multiverse. It's still a probable vector that has to be explored by consciousness. Essentially,
I think it's a bit far out of our conception currently. Until we actually do it, it was probably like planes to people in the 1700s. It's like the sky is just somewhere that I'll never be.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, the idea is that you can't create a paradox, but at the same time you might not know that you've even changed time. Essentially, because time will always realign itself.
Well, it's like when we spoke about John Titor saying that Y2K may have happened, but he changed the course of history. Where what and as he said, I could tell you all of the things that I've stopped, but you wouldn't believe me because they never happened.
They never happened because I stopped them.
Because I'm a superhero.
Superman.
But I think that is probably the last time I ever want to speak about time travel again. I thought that was just interesting that article showed up like a day or two after we spoke about all the having paradoxes and stuff. So this will bring me to my final section, which is a recommendation section. Do you have any recommendations, Howard, or do you want me to just blast through a few of mine?
Excuse me.
Anything you've been watching? Anything you've been reading, playing?
If you haven't watched The Boys, that's pretty good on Amazon. And
season 2 is wrapping up pretty soon as well, isn't it? I think.
I think we're on episode 6 or something.
I think I saw a tweet saying that it was either this week or next week. The finale is.
I think it's next week. Because I think tomorrow is episode 7 and then 8 next week.
Right.
And my other recommendation is, I've been telling you about it, but since the trailer for Black Myth Wukong came out, I've gone back. Years ago, I had an audiobook of Journey to the West. It's not the full story. The full story is much longer. It's like the full story is like 100 chapters. The Journey to the West, the Chinese mythology. It's like 100 chapters. It's really long. It's got a lot of like poetry and stuff. But there is a condensed, I think like 9 or 10 chapter version of the book, which you can read. But I've personally gone and found the book that I found years ago. At the time, I didn't know who it was read by. Turns out, many years later, it was read by Kenneth Williams, matron. Oh. You've got to know Kenneth Williams, haven't you?
I recognise the voice. I can't.
He was in like all of the what are those films called now? Carry On films.
Oh yes, yeah.
The kind
I
of
know.
yeah. And he just does a brilliant reading of it. It's available on Amazon, or if you want, you can just search for, I think it's audiobooks.com, and you might find a free link to.
We're not sponsored, but we'll take the money anyway. Amazon. We've slagged you off before,
no,
Jeff
because I've
Bezos,
just told
but-
I've just told people where they might be able to listen to it for free. It's a very old
I mean-
audiobook. It's from, I think it's from the 70s or the 80s, because Kenneth Williams died quite a while ago now.
Unless he's coming from the grave.
But it's a really good reading. He mispronounces some of the names and stuff. Like I think it was Lao Tzu. At one point, he mentions him and he mispronounces the name completely. Lao Tzu being I think he was the monk, the Buddhist monk who invented Taoism.
Yes.
And he's kind of included in the stories. Some things he pronounces right, like King Yama's in there and stuff, and he pronounces that right. So it's like, I think it was at a time when like a lot of like Chinese enunciation stuff would have just kind of been ignored. They were just like, it's just a book, we'll read the book. So I'm a bit of a stickler for like the proper pronunciations and stuff, but otherwise it's fine. And it's just him. As much as I love the story, it's just the way he reads it is brilliant. So yeah, you can look that up. The
Journey to the West.
I think it's called Journey to the West. They might have given it a different stupid Western name. Let me just check.
Journey Away from the West would probably be an apt one for now.
You can probably search for Kenneth Williams' Monkey King or Kenneth Williams' Journey to the West, but the actual title of the book is called, in the Western release anyway, it's just called Monkey by Wu Chiang, read by Kenneth Williams. So it's literally just called Monkey, and I think that's why it's like 25 quid. It's about 10 hours long, the book, so
That's about the average audiobook, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's just 10-hour long chapters essentially. Like I said, if you wanted to read the full, if you wanted to get the full Journey to the West experience, which I do eventually one day, but I think it's in 5 books. The best English translation anyway was by a professor in the 80s, I think. There has been a revised edition in 2012 to improve some of the translations. And that is 5 books with, I think, 25 chapters in each. No, 4 books with 25 chapters in each. And they're about 500 pages long. I think they're big books.
God, so it'd be about 12 for the 100 chapter one.
It's a big. If you read all 4 books, all 100 chapters, it'll keep you going for a year. Probably.
Maybe that'll be what you'll have to do if we go into another year of lockdown. Just become a monk and just have those books as your only possessions.
Well, I'm already thinking of buying the books. I think the books were only, I think for the paperbacks they're only like 30 quid or something each. So I might look into them.
Very nice. Any more recommendations?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. But those were very good. And what was the game that was coming out and that sort of encompasses that as well, that people would probably want to get into that if they wanted to buy the game?
That's Black Myth Wukong. If you haven't watched the trailer, it's an amazing looking game by a little Chinese indie dev. It looks like it kind of takes the gameplay of things like Dark Souls and stuff like that, but kind of makes them a little lighter. It looks more like a third person kind of action like game based on like the Chinese mythology. So I think I said to you, it's kind of,
it looks very God of War-y.
It's more like a God of War kind of game. I think there's an aspect of that Eastern style of gaming in there, but I think it's much more forgiving than a Bloodborne or a Dark Souls game.
So if you're awful at games like me, you'll be okay.
Yeah, from what I saw, like the Wukong has 72 transformations, and from what I saw, once you transformed into one of his transformations in that, you either gained a bit of health back, or if you did a full transformation, he gained his entire health bar back. So it looks like there are things you can do if you can time things right. You can transform to get your health back and stuff. So it looks like it looks much more forgiving than a Souls game. Thank God.
Okay, well, sweet. And I think I don't think it's coming out next year, is it? I don't think it's got a release date yet, I don't think.
No, I don't. I think that video they released was just a technical video. They later apologized for some of the oversights in the video. There's a few translation issues and there's a few rendering issues as well in some of the scenes. If you watch over the trailer again, he hasn't got his tail because they forgot to render it and stuff.
Minor things. It's okay.
Yeah, there's a few things in the trailer which to me I didn't give a shit. It looked beautiful. The gameplay looked great.
I was too busy looking at every hair on the other thing, going, "Fucking hell, that's impressive."
Well, the thing that dragged me back into the kind of Journey to the West stories was how much of it I was watching it like because I didn't know it was the Monkey King until towards the end of the trailer when he plucked a hair out and he did the what would be called in Naruto that jutsu, the duplicate jutsu.
Oh, when he just turns into multiple versions of himself.
Yeah, which is actually based on Naruto and Goku being based on the Monkey King. One of the Monkey King's abilities is that he can take hairs from his head and use them for different abilities. Like in the game, they've used it to store his staff. He stores it in his hair as a thread. And that's one of his powers, is to be able to do that. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh shit, this is giving me vibes. And then I remembered listening to this story years ago because it's completely gone from my memory now. It was just a random audiobook I downloaded off the internet, and it brought back all these memories of just these brilliant stories. And I was like, oh fuck. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh okay. So now I'm really getting kind of into the Journey to the West, mainly for kind of a preparation for the game, but also because I do really enjoy the story. And I love the character of Wukong. It's the same kind of endearment that I get to characters like Goku, the kind of pure-hearted characters.
Yeah. Keeping with the Eastern style, for my first recommendation, I have Game Gengo, who I sort of just stumbled across this channel. It's if you're interested in learning Japanese, this is a channel for you. I just stumbled across it, and the way that he does it is, I mean, it may have been done before, but I haven't seen it before, is that he plays through games. It's a relatively new channel, so I don't think he's completed any games yet.
Yeah.
But he goes through games. So just to give you an example of some of the games, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Persona 5, Metal Gear Solid, Ghost of Tsushima, and a few others.
Oh, does he play it and translate as he's going?
Kind of. So the way that his videos works, these are his main videos. I think he does a few videos where it's he doesn't speak and he doesn't go on camera and stuff like that, and it's just text and stuff. Yeah. But the way that his main videos work, so this is for like the Final Fantasy VII Remake, at least episode 1 of these series, and the Ghost of Tsushima one. The way that it works is he does an introduction to the game and does sort of sweet, yeah, we'll leave a trailer to the Black Myth Wukong. Is that explained?
That's for you if you do want to understand the trailer. She literally translates everything all the side characters and stuff are saying. You'll basically know the game a little bit better if you watch that.
Okay, cool. We'll leave that in the description as well for anyone that's interested. And we'll leave the trailer as well, if you could grab me the link for that as well.
I'll grab it, yes.
So the way that his videos works is he has an introduction to the game /series. I don't know if he has an introduction for part 2 and part 3 because I haven't really got into any of them. I just sort of watched a little bit of the start and was like, oh, this is a really cool content if you're learning Japanese. So he has the introduction stage. He has the immersion stage where it plays through maybe the first 15 minutes of the game or the next 15 minutes of the game, I assume, for episode 2 and 3. Where it sort of lets the game play a little bit, no interruptions, nothing like that, and it's just in complete Japanese. And then he has an analysis stage where he takes every piece of dialogue. I wouldn't say every piece of dialogue because there's probably dialogue that repeats and stuff. But he takes the dialogue and goes over each bit of dialogue, translating it and telling you where you would use it, how it's spelled in both the kanji and katakana and hiragana and stuff like that. And to me, it just seems like a really fucking cool way to get yourself into Japanese, because Japanese seems like a fucking hard language to learn, especially coming from a European language.
Well, and most Eastern languages are difficult. I think, is it Mandarin supposed to be one of the easier ones?
That's Chinese, isn't it?
It's one of the, because obviously the different dialects and different things like that. I think Mandarin's supposed to be the easiest Eastern language. I might be getting that wrong. It might be the most difficult. It's one of the two.
It's either like impossibly difficult or really easy.
Yeah, well, it's because
no grey area.
Their concept of society and language and everything evolved very differently to ours. So just like very simple concepts when it comes to linguistics, some things just do not translate. Like in this video that I've sent to this woman explaining the Wukong thing, when she's explaining some of the poetry, it's like, I can't really explain this to you. It's very steeped in Chinese culture. One of the things in that Wukong trailer is, unless you're a Chinese person, you don't know how many references there were to the 80s series of The Monkey King, including the music and things that characters say and stuff, all tying back as references, almost making this look as though it's a continuation of their beloved 80s live action series. So
I suppose you wouldn't
no
get
idea
a lot
because
of references.
none of the references are explained because you just don't get that there's a complete cultural block, which is the same for any when it comes to learning languages from the East. It's just, oh god.
Oh god, I just help. But,
I would love to be able to learn fucking Chinese or Japanese, but
but this guy's, he's very welcoming. He's very nice, and he goes over basically most of the dialogue. I hope that he does a whole playthrough of a game. He's very small. His YouTube channel is very small in retrospect compared to other channels. He's only got 3,000 subscribers, but a big shout out to this guy because it's a very imaginative way. He's currently on episode 21 of the Final Fantasy VII remake. So, and each of his videos are about 30 to 40 minutes long, the main ones. So you'll just get a shit ton of use out of these if you're currently learning Japanese. So that's my first recommendation for you, Howard. My second is, we were speaking briefly before this, and we said it earlier, that we weren't really keeping up with a lot of the news, especially British news lately. My next one for you, you may have heard of them. They are a larger channel. It's TLDR News. They have multiple channels. So they have the TLDR News, which is just, I would say it's mainly UK based news and stuff pertaining to the UK and larger international events, like sort of the is it Beirut, or Beirut, the explosion that happened there a few months ago.
You're right, the first time, yeah.
They covered that. They cover some of the Chinese national water stuff. I'll go over a few of these later, but they have multiple channels. So they have TLDR News US, which you can kind of gather what that's going to be about. TLDR Daily, which is they just give you like a daily pinch of all of news, and all of these are about 10-minute chunks, most of these videos. They have TLDR Podcast, which is a competitor to us just because it's an audio only thing. So I hate you for that. No, I don't.
They look fairly unbiased just from looking at like the titles of their videos. They kind of look like they're covering fairly bipartisan stuff. Like,
well, it's a team, so it's not just one person as well.
It looks like they tend to be addressing.
They address everyone, really.
Yeah,
in these,
it's interesting actually. Yeah.
Posts. So, and they also have TLDR News EU, which is European news. So, as I say, as the title says, they are a YouTube news channel. Hence the name. Too long didn't read news. So for the TLDR News, the main channel one, just to give you some examples of what sort of stuff they've covered, Brexit is obviously one of the things they have heavily talked about and continue to talk about. They've also talked about the South China Sea dispute. They've talked about COVID and put in very layman's terms the vaccine and stuff like that and where the vaccine is. And obviously that's a bit out of date now because it was a month or two ago, I think. The Iran nuclear crisis, etc., and they go into all sorts of other stuff. I probably wouldn't have recommended this channel because it's just a news channel and there's multiple out there. I do like the animations. It's all it's not just somebody in front of a camera. It's like Philip DeFranco sort of style. It's all infographic style and all like blocky colors and
it's
very
natural
simple
production kind of thing.
Yeah, it's very simple. It's very simple and to the point. But one of my favorite series that they have is it's called Opinionated, and this series, it's a series where they ask their audience like sort of I wouldn't say taboo questions. Some of them might be for some people, but some of the questions that they've asked is: should weed be legalized? Should university be free? Should we have UBI and nuclear power? Should we use more or less, etc. Stuff like that.
It sounds more like they ask questions to try and bring light to things rather than to kind of push a kind of agenda like most of the fucking media do nowadays.
Yeah, so with these opinionated videos, I think what they did was they released them weekly for their YouTube channel for free, but they gave people the whole series who paid for their Patreon straight away, because they have a Patreon as well if you do want to support these guys. For these videos, what they did is they presented both sides of the argument, and then they showed what their audience had voted. 16,000 people took part in the questionnaire, or however they did it, and just showed what their viewers think. They didn't have a conclusion. They didn't have anything like that. They just showed you both sides and said,
data.
This is what our audience said. Make your own opinion.
That's the news I like. I like the news to be presented to me as information that I then get to process myself. I don't need you to process it for me. I'm not a moron.
So, if you on the opposite side, if you are a moron like me, this is a fantastic YouTube channel that, as far as I'm aware, seems unbiased and has called the government out for lying and stuff like that, and has I'm pretty sure they put all their sources in the description and everything like that. So if you find out they are biased, do hit me up.
Just to be like crystal clear though, I don't mind bias. Like, I love Jimmy Dore, and he's incredibly biased. He's very progressive, but when it comes to reporting the news, he's generally non-biased. When it comes to like who he's going to attack for, he doesn't pull punches against the left or the right. He's like, no, this is fucking stupid. Shut up.
Fuck you all.
Yeah, and I like him because he loses his temper a lot. Like me.
Oh, that is my favorite. When he just when you see his face get a bit red and he starts to get a bit angry. It's like, yes.
Drag them.
Spill the tea, Jimmy. But yeah, so that's my second recommendation, and I don't know how many subscribers they have, because I know some people only base their subscriptions on how large a channel is. I can understand that. You want quality. But they have 413,000 subscribers as of now. That's their TLDR news. That's their main channel. And my last one is, again, a relatively new channel. I've been on a roll lately because the last few recommendations that I've given have been like channels in the millions or like hundreds of thousands and stuff. But now I want to give back to the smaller guys like us. My last one is the Friday Checkout. Now, this is a technology channel. The videos are, again, usually quite short, about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, I would say. And he has 3 segments in his videos. The first one is Pick of the Week. This is usually, it seems to be just something cool that he's picked out tech-wise that he wants to cover. It's neither good nor bad. It's just sort of, that was fucking cool, what I just read, and just shared it.
That's something that happened today.
Yeah. I'll get on to what the latest episode ones are, just so you can get a gist for what the sort of stories he picks are. And then the next section is Win of the Week. You can sort of guess what that one's going to be about. And the last one is Fail of the Week. Again, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Leave that to you.
Yeah. So the latest episode that he released, the pick of the week was that India is making its own app store to combat Google's app store. The win of the week was that Windows are bringing 64-bit operating programs to ARM,
which is pretty cool.
And the fail of the week is that Facebook is merging all of their services, including Instagram, Oculus, Messenger, all that sort of stuff.
Of course they are.
I think it was to get around something. It probably was.
Something to do with data. Yeah.
And the last thing that he does, which is fucking cool. I don't know if he does it or somebody else does it and he just tags along. They do a weekly tech quiz just to sort of to keep your tech knowledge sharp. We're ending the episode soon, so I'll see myself out in a minute. You have like a 5-minute timer and there's about 20 questions, and it's stuff like what company made some of them are easy, like what company made the iMac, and then some of them are harder, like what operating system does so and so work on, and it's sort of varying degrees. Like I'm an idiot when it comes to technology in most retrospects, but I still got 9 out of 20, which isn't the greatest. But
That's pretty good.
But yeah, so those are my recommendations. And unless you've got anything else to add, Howard, I think that'll do it for this episode.
No, I think that's it.
I think we did a tightly wrapped package this time.
Yeah.
Lovely. Ready for Halloween? Well, not yet. I'm hoping we'll get another episode or two out before Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah, as the middle-aged mums say, Halloween. But yeah, as I say, that'll do it for this episode. If you want to check out the links to literally anything that we've talked about today, you can check them out in the description of your podcast provider, unless you're with Spotify, because they are shit. Yeah, Spotify just tends to be shit for their descriptions. As of now, don't come at me in 3 years when it's fucking sick. So you can check all the links out at cluelessinter.net. That's our website. You can check out our YouTube channel, which is in the description. You can follow us on Twitter at cluelessnet. You can email us anything you fancy relating to the show, preferably.
I thought you were going to say, you can email us anything, you fucks.
Yeah, you can email us anything, you fucks, at podcast@cluelessinter.net. You can join our Discord server, which, again, the link will be in the description. I've recently added a submission section, so if you want to submit any stories for Today I Learned, Today I Fucked Up, 3 Real, 3 Fake, there's a channel for you to do so in that, in case you don't want to go and piss around with sending an email and stuff. And you can check out our latest stuff, because we get notifications for the podcast, YouTube, live stream, everything like that. And the live stream is over on twitch.tv/Clueless Internet. I usually start around about 6:30 GMT. I've also started doing the first stream of the week is a charity stream where we try and raise a bit of money for predominantly a gaming related charity. So if you're interested in spending a little bit of your paycheck at the start of the month on a good cause, please join us there. Make sure to share the podcast with at least one of your friends. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Good day.
Love you. Gross.
And stop.
Crap!